Rachel Landsman, and I'm a coordinator for the Rice Players, and I recently did publicity for our production of Rabbit Hole.
My name is Michael Hollis. I am the current producer of the Rice Players, and I've done publicity I was in charge of publicity for Mystery Plays a year ago, and then I've kind of worked with it with everyone else that's done such.
Okay. What's the first thing that you should do when you become like the marketing head for a show?
Well, besides general planning stuff of figuring out what you're doing, I think the first step is usually to have an image. If you have a graphic designer, that's a great person to kind of work with, or just have something in your mind of what you're using to publicize the show, kind of a central logo to build on.
Yeah, I would definitely say, the very first step is definitely to just get really familiar with the show and to talk with the director about the director's vision for the show, so that your concept is kind of building on the director's concept, and so that way you're marketing something that, goes with what the rest of the show is, the concept is.
Properly represents what the audience is going to see.
So how should the marketing team fit with the rest of the production?
It's kind of weird because you're not on the design team, but you're your own little individual, but you kind of have to work with everyone. One thing Rachel mentioned is with the director. You want to make sure that his aesthetic for the show matches the aesthetic of the graphics, and that he kind of agrees with how you're portraying it to everyone else, so people aren't deceived that they're coming to see a comedy when it's actually a tragedy. And
yeah, I would say just working really closely with the director and the graphic designer to just make sure you have one unified concept for all the posters and just everything that goes out. So those two people are two people you're going to work a lot with, but then just working with everyone else to make sure everyone is helping with the effort of marketing the show and making people want to come see the show. So whether that's, they need to help put up flyers, or they want to post a Facebook status that says, hey, I'm working on the show, here's a link to the Rice Players page or something. Just everyone working together to get the word out, and it's not just you, because the more people that are publicizing the show, pushing the show, the more people will respond.
Right. We're all doing our own thing. We all have a specific task. The sound designer may be really busy with editing things, so they may not think, oh, I should also do this publicity thing. So it really helps to remind everyone how important it is that they seem invested to their friends, and they reach out and tell everyone that they can that they should come see the show.
Yeah, and just one more thing is just coordinating everyone to maybe do things at the same time. So something that we did that was really effective for Rabbit Hole, I think, was we had this new profile picture and cover photo.
Sure.
And so everyone who was involved in the show on the same day, everyone changed their Facebook profile picture and Facebook cover photo. And so we just had this unified look.
And it's a little obnoxious, but it works.
Yeah, and so then when people log into Facebook on their newsfeed, it says Michael changed his profile picture, Rachel changed her profile picture, and it's just the same image of Rabbit Hole. And that reminds them oh, I should go see this. Yeah. So just getting people to do stuff kind of as a group really makes it noticeable.
Can you guys walk me through the process of advertising for an audition?
Sure. I would say the best way and the most effective way to advertise an audition at Rice is probably through Facebook, but also through flyers and putting up flyers, especially in the residential colleges, because people tend to respond to those pretty well. But I think Facebook is definitely effective. There's a pretty solid group of people on campus that audition for the shows and are consistently involved in theaters. So I think just reminding them through Facebook, when the audition is, people respond really well to that. And then the flyers are a really good way to reach out to people who might not necessarily already have done a show at Rice and might not be connected on Facebook already with the Rice Players.
Right.
So it's kind of reaching out to two different groups to get everyone to know about the audition.
Yeah, they're kind of two different camps, the social media and then the traditional paper stuff. Facebook is great because people can immediately respond and ask questions, and it's kind of a central forum. But then I think that the flyers are a visual reminder. If you're just walking down a hallway and you see 10 flyers, oh, I should audition for that show because I'm remembering that. So a good balance of both is helpful.
How did you guys approach like creating a Facebook event for auditions? What information is on there, basically?
I mean, you definitely need just basic facts of when and where, what the show is, what people need to prepare. That's always a question because it varies from show to show. You know, for a musical, people need to prepare a song, and sometimes the director will want someone to prepare something. Usually, it's just a cold read. So people are always wanting to know what they need to prepare, and since it does vary, you need to be really clear about that. Other things are just, you know, when our auditions, do you have to stay the whole time, when our callbacks, all that sort of information. If you can have it sort of in one place, generally Facebook, then that's really helpful for people because everyone has the same questions. So it's really good to have that on the Facebook event.
Right, just general facts, you know, what is the show, like kind of history behind it, just a Wikipedia summary of the plot is helpful. And then like who's the director, like is it a professional, like what's their history, just kind of give an idea of like what direction it's going in.
Yeah, and then definitely just a way that people can ask questions. So whether that's through Facebook or give you know, an email address that people can direct their questions to, or where they can get a copy of the script if they want to read it in advance. So those are all kind of things, you know, people always ask a lot of questions, so it's just good to give them an outlet for that.
Yeah.
What was the difference in creating an audition for a Facebook audition event and the event for the show?
I would say the Facebook event for the auditions is definitely a little more targeted because you know the people that you've done shows with before that you know are potential people to audition. You know they might be interested. So definitely Facebook is a really great resource to target the audition event at those people. So by posting on, you know, a group from a show that you've been in before, or posting on the Rice Players page, that's really helpful to target the event towards those people. For the event for the actual show, that's definitely just a broader audience. So that's really good to just have everyone who's involved in the show, just say, invite everyone on your friends list, and that way just to get the word out. And you know, the audition is generally just, you're inviting a smaller amount of people because, you know, not everyone at Rice wants to audition, but we hope that everyone at Rice wants to come see the show.
Yeah.
So it's really great for the actual event for the show to just have everyone share it on their timeline and just to get the word out there. So you really want to really get that word out to everyone at Rice.
Yeah, I would say for an audition, the information is more centered around how, of like, you know, when the event is, like when there are auditions, what they should bring, like those kind of details. Because most people know whether or not they can audition for a lot of shows or at all. So you don't really have to convince them per se. I mean, some people you have to kind of hound and remind them. But then for a show, you know, people know how to go see a show, so you have to tell them why. You know, it's convince them that your show is worth seeing and it's worth their time and money.
I think another thing for the event, for the actual show, something that's really great about Facebook is that you can post other media on the event. So, for example, for Rabbit Hole, we had a video trailer that we created, and then we posted that on the event page. So people who are invited to the event who maybe don't know anything about the show can, you know, watch that trailer and say, oh, that actually looks really cool. And also for Rabbit Hole, you know, we had behind the scenes photos of the cast, you know, in rehearsal, and people really like to see that. So posting that on the event page just gives people a better idea of, you know, why they should see the show and what the show's about. So people really like engaging with that more visual media instead of text. So it's a really a great place to, you know, include that.
Same with Mystery Plays. We sent out pictures, you know, every couple of weeks or days about what was going on in rehearsals, kind of behind the scenes, and it was a reminder for people like, oh, my friend's in the show, and it looks really fun, and they're like working with all these people, like, you know, maybe I should actually go see them.
Yeah, the visuals really help people connect with the actors and the rest of the people involved with the show because they can see their friends working really hard and say, oh yeah, that looks really cool.
Yeah.
Can you walk me through the process of advertising the show?
I would say probably the earliest thing you're doing for advertising is off campus because Rice students generally decide the day of, oh, I'm going to go see Rabbit Hole tonight. But people, you know, the wider Houston audience will decide a couple weeks in advance that the show is something they're interested in. So the first thing that you need to advertise is you need to create posters for off campus. And those need to go up a couple weeks earlier than the ones that you're putting up on campus.
Definitely.
And those generally need to have a little more information, you know, where the show is might be a little more confusing to someone who's not familiar with the Rice campus, and we generally include more information about, you know, parking or how to contact the box office and things like that, because people who maybe have never been to Rice before but are really interested in the show might not know who to contact. So those posters generally need more information and need to go up earliest.
Right. And along with that, we usually write a press release, and our box office manager is great about sending that out to like various news outlets or a lot of blogs or Facebook or a lot of theater websites will like post events of like different shows going on. So she's really good about kind of including that. So that's a lot earlier than a lot of the on-campus stuff because they have deadlines.
But then I would say once you've done the off-campus marketing, generally the next step is to update our website and to create the Facebook event. And you can create that pretty early because just to start getting people to get the word out, and then momentum will build as the show gets closer. And so I would create the Facebook event pretty early. And then flyers are up around campus usually wait until the week before opening. Just because there are so many flyers that go up all over Rice that people will tear them down, you know, just to make room for other flyers. So the closer to the show you can put them up, the better chance they'll stay up throughout the run. So that's kind of the opposite of off-campus flyers. Once you put a flyer up, you know, in a coffee shop or something, they generally stay up.
Sure.
So those are kind of the different steps. And then throughout the process, we've been talking before about those behind-the-scenes photos that we do, and those people really like those. So that's kind of throughout the entire rehearsal process. We try to update our social media. You know, this is what the Rice players are doing. This is what it looks like. This is who's in the cast. So the more information you can share throughout the process, it'll really get into people's heads. Like, oh, the Rice players are doing this show, and it looks really awesome. And this is who's in it, and I know all these things because the Rice players keep sharing this stuff on Facebook. So the more you can drill it into people's brains, the more likely they are to come see the show.
And along with that, I know it sounds obvious that you should have a good poster, but there are so many posters up that it's really important that your graphic design is very on top of things, that it's very smooth, it's very striking, that people automatically know, like, oh, this is a show. You know, because some posters you see around campus are like, you have to take a long time to figure out, like, what are they advertising? So make sure you focus on your poster standing out with the rest of them. And then that'll carry on to your social media. If you have like the same images that cross over, then people will see that event and then see the poster and, you know, put two and two together. And,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess the very earliest thing that you need to do is find a good graphic designer. That is the earliest thing because that's really important.
We've done some shows where we do our own graphic design, and sometimes it works if it's something like pretty simple. Like for mystery plays, I just like cut out some letters and the name of the title, like, and put it on like a red background and took a picture, and it was like, it looked really cool. But for other shows, you need something a little bit more engaging or like well designed.
Cool. I guess my next question was, what are the most effective ways of reaching an off-campus audience? But I feel like we covered that. Do you guys have anything more to say?
Yeah, I think there's a few more things.
Okay.
I just think what's important about reaching an off-campus audience is that you need to know where to put those flyers. And we've had trouble with that in the past, but we're kind of getting more of a hang of where are places that will let you put up flyers. Generally, like local businesses will let you put up flyers, whereas like chains like Jamba Juice, they won't let you put up a flyer. But if you go to like local coffee shops, places in the village generally let you put up flyers.
Yeah, walking down the village is good because all of them are pretty nice about that.
And yeah, just local businesses are usually really good about it. And one really great resource is going to other theaters, because a lot of other theaters just have like information about, you know, what are other shows going on in Houston. Just like if you go to Main Street, they have like a whole table of just like pamphlets of shows that are going on around the area. So those are really great resources. And the audience that you're reaching there, they're already a theater going audience. So, you know, it's more likely that you'll get people to come if you go to those places. The other thing is just Houston is a big city, and going by yourself to put up flyers all over the place is not really fun. So something that's really good to do when you're doing your off-campus marketing is to choose a date and just get your whole cast or crew together and just say, okay, we're gonna, you know, take 4 cars and you
Sure.
go to this area and you go to this area and
Spread
just
out.
poster everywhere. Because if you do it on your own, it's gonna take forever.
I think an important thing to realize about this position of marketing, it's more than lighting or other design, is that you're not doing all of the marketing. You're just kind of like spearheading it. That everyone involved should be very invested in helping you, and yes, you're just kind of delegating, allowing everyone to kind of work on that and spread the message as broadly as you can.
Cool. As far as budgeting goes, where do you guys think like you're spending the bulk of your money? Like, are you spending it on for the show or for auditions or like for off-campus stuff? Like,
It varies. I think that the bulk of the money goes to spontaneous things that you don't really plan for. Because Facebook is free, most social media. The media center through VADA, they let us print pretty much for free. It's like maybe 3 cents a page, depending on what the staff there will tell you. They're really nice about it. We have a very nice printer that we can use. So flyers and posters and pamphlets, those are really cheap. One time we got postcards from Vistaprint, and they were like really nice and really classy. So those cost a little bit more. Or if you want to put like yard signs, that might be an extra expense. So usually the budget is more of a creative other thing you come up with.
Yeah, I would say that like generally the things we do for every show aren't a big expense, like the flyers and stuff.
Sure.
But if you come up with an idea like those little postcards that were really cool, that kind of, is unique to that show and it's not something we've done before, that's something you can definitely spontaneously be spending your money on. We generally don't budget that much towards publicity because we expect that, we get this really good deal on the printing costs, and that's generally, what most of publicity does. But there are ways, sometimes on Facebook they'll say you can, for $30, you can do a sponsored ad or boost your post or something. And that's not something we've done before, but it's something we can consider, especially, depending on how our digital reach is going, and if we're not reaching enough people, that could be something we consider in the future. So that's not something we've done before, but something we are definitely open to.
okay. And then my last question is, what advice would you guys give yourself if you could go back in time to before you started marketing a show?
I would say the most important thing is to understand that everyone, as you said before, everyone in the show is invested in the show and wants people to come see the show. So if you ask the cast, hey, can you put up posters in your residential college? They should say yes, because they want people to come see them act. And same goes for designers, and same goes for directors or anyone. Everyone's invested, everyone's working really hard, and you can't do all the work yourself.
Right.
So you really need the support of the whole team to get the word out and to get people to come to the show. And that's really, really important to make sure everyone knows that, I'm not just putting up flyers for no reason, we really want people to come fill Hammond Hall. So, if everyone's invested and everyone's willing to help out publicity, that's really good.
Along with that, I would say that don't be deceived by how simple the job seems. For past shows, it's just been kind of tacked on to someone else's job, like, oh yeah, I'll do marketing too. But it takes a lot of planning. And if you plan ahead of time of like, by this date we'll have this, by this date we'll have the posters, and then on this Saturday we'll have the poster party where everyone goes out. That helps a lot if you put in that planning and a little bit of extra work to make sure that you're covering all your bases. So yeah, I would say that I wish I would have known how much effort or how much planning it takes ahead of time.